Good evening and welcome to another session of Right Circle in Meerut and Faridabad presented by Prabhaketan Foundation in association with Danik Jagran, Shri Cement and Ehsas Women of Meerut and Faridabad. Prabhaketan Foundation is a non-profit trust which promotes art, literature, culture, dance and music through curated boutique events. When the world had stopped, the foundation geared up its efforts and brought for patrons to rendezvous with authors, musicians, performers from all across the world. The Right Circle is one such initiative by the foundation for the patrons to have a conversation with the finest personalities of the country. The guest for the evening is none other than the media veteran Ananth Narayan Mahadevan ji. He has been in the industry for 40 years in theatre, journalism, film, television, and advertisement. He has been awarded the National Film Award winning filmmaker for the Marathi biopic Me Sindhupti Sapka and has been acclaimed for award winning films like Gaur Hari Dastan, The Freedom File, Red Alert, The War Within, and Rough Book. He has acted in over 100 feature films in Hindi, English, Marathi, Malayalam, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, including Gardish, Khilari, Bazigar, Vishwaswarup 2, Evening Shadows, and others. Directed over 1,000 episodes of prime-time television, he has acted in over 75 television serials, web series, including The Sword of Tipu Sultan, Ghar Jamai, Nupur, and others. He has also performed over 35 stage plays with over 3,000 shows all over the world. He is also the author of the best selling book on Indian television, Once Upon a Prime Time. Also directed commercials for brands like Godrej, Yellow Pages, Imami, Mediclaim, and others, and then also modeled for brands like Suzuki, Complan, Kitply, Brook Bond Tea, V-Guard, and others. In conversation with him, we have another dynamic Ehsas woman of Nagpur, Miss Monica. I would like the audience now to sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Before passing on, I would request my audience to please share the address because we are going to send them a book by Sir. So please share the address with me or Anshuji within 2 days. So thank you, and on off to Monica and Anandji.
Thank you, Shweta. So, Anandji, thank you so much for being with us. A very, very warm welcome on behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation and particularly Faridabad and Meerut. I can't tell you how excited we are to hear you this evening. And without much ado, let us just begin hearing you. Who is Ananth Mahadevan?
That's a question I've been trying to answer for almost 40 years. Uh, who am I? What am
Yes.
I doing here? What is, I guess it's a question that, everyone asks themselves. And we are all trying to find the answer to this conundrum because why are we here? What are we meant to be? What are we meant to do? And what are we meant to achieve? And how do we manage to make the best out of it? Because they say, no one told you life is going to be easy. It's definitely going to be tough. So how do you face it? How do you reckon with all the obstacles that come your way? How do you brush aside the temptations that would force you to make a mistake? So I would say, I often find myself on my Facebook page. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll find that I have described myself as the world's biggest fool. And a lot of people think that I am just pulling their leg or trying to be smart. But no, I truly feel that because, trying to fit myself into any fabric of society, whether it's the creative arts, whether it is political, whether it's artistic, or whether it's just, being social, uh, you know, unfortunately demands a lot out of you when that's not the way it should be. I mean, we should all be what we are, just what we are. Why should we put on something and put on an act or put on a face or put on a mask and be somebody else? Then who is the real you? Everyone is trying to be somebody else. Everyone is trying to be what he or she is not, and that's shocking and surprising because then what about the real you? Are you running away from the real you? would you come to a point in life where you realize that you do not know who you really are, but
Right.
you have put on
Yeah.
so many disguises and masks that now you do not even know those characters that you have created for yourself. So it's a complicated question that you asked, and I've been trying to just keep it very simple. Be a simple person, simple living, high thinking, God fearing, and try and make the best out of life, because try as we might, we do not get all the answers all the time. But there's something called spirituality, which raises your spirits, which raises your energies to a level where you feel it's worth it. All that you're going through is worth it, and you also imbibe the strength to fight or to go through what is karma and what is destined for you and what is written for you. And still, if I'm coming back to the question, I'm trying to decipher who I am, who Ananth Mahadevan is. I think he's been quite a misfit in everything that he has been trying to do. And I mean, if I stand outside myself, I see this guy Ananth Mahadevan as a total misfit, as someone who is been very strangely a novice, who has not really understood the ways of the world, who has not really been able to grapple with what the world expects of you and how you need to change for the world. And that is something that I somehow cannot bring myself.
Come fast. It's gone off. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, but can you see me?
Yes,
Yes,
yes, we
I
can
can
see
see
you.
you.
Okay. I have a request. So now,
Did you lose me at any point of time? Do you want me to repeat something that I said?
no, 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 no. I've been hearing you, but I just thought I lost you for a bit. So, sir, born in Cochin in 57, a career in film begins in 84. A scriptwriter, author, actor. It's been a long journey from Cochin to Bombay. So tell us about that, please.
Well, I think I should thank my parents who migrated from Thrissur, which is about 45 minutes from Cochin. Thrissur is incidentally the cultural capital of Kerala. And my parents, my father decided to move to Bombay. So naturally, my parents, both of them, came down here. And I'm, indeed very grateful, because it is the schooling and the kind of education that one is given that makes all the difference to you. Those impressionist years where you are influenced by people, where you tend to follow certain kind of norms, principles, ways of life. So I'm so fortunate to have sort of gotten into the Don Bosco High School, where the teachers were very, very, very strict, and they knew what they wanted from the students. And we were part of the batches that were, demanded the highest, standard of education from all of us, and a lot of dedication, perseverance, and hard work, and sincerity and honesty to go with it. So that's where it all started. And of course, the journey has been like, these things, little things keep popping up in your journey, which you sometimes don't notice. The affinity towards the arts, although you are being educated in the sciences. And how, sometimes your passion and your hobby becomes your profession without even you knowing it, and it's subconsciously creeping up, and suddenly it's all over you, and you are you're an artist instead of a scientist. So that's how it was. And somewhere in the 80s, I started doing professional theater, and 83 onwards, television started. I mean, commercial television, mainstream television started, sponsored television started. So, and then I was part of the television brigade right from the beginning. That was another fortunate occurrence, because my theater took me to my television, which in turn took me to my films. So that's how the journey has been. It has been very logical. I haven't jumped the queue. I haven't jumped the gun, and I have been proceeding like, one would say, a kind of graduation that where you underwent during your scholastic years. My profession too underwent that kind of graduation, from being an actor in theater to an actor in television to an actor in films, to being a writer and a director in television and then in film. So it's like it was a huge learning process, and the learning process still continues. And 40 years, I'm surprised,
Wow.
that it has been 40 years, and yet
Amazing.
I
Amazing.
still feel very incomplete. I still feel as though I haven't really gotten to where I've got or need to, because I need to get to a certain standard of excellence, a certain standard of perfection, and a certain standard of achievement, which I think has escaped me and which is still a long way from me. So for me, 40 years has passed like, it's just gone on like in a jiffy. And for me, I still feel that I'm starting off.
But that's because perhaps the passion in you as a creative person, that's what keeps you going. And that's what makes you want to do much more, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it keeps you alive and kicking, you bet, because the minute you feel that you have done it, not done it all,
Mm.
if you've done
It's
it, and
stagnant.
that's the end of it. So for me, I would say these 40 years have been learning years, and now let me apply that to the next 40 years.
Okay, so one thing that has always personally intrigued me, which I want to understand from you, that what is it that makes a person an author, a writer? Is it a form of self-expression or a desire to relate or share an experience? Because I've also done literature. My master's and MPhil is in English literature, and I do write well, but just sit down and write is quite a task, I would say. So, what makes a man or a lady become a writer?
See, when you go and do Shakespeare in your sixth standard, and when you have all the great authors from Charles Dickens to all the great works, all the British authors who Keats, or the poets
The
and
poets.
Wordsworth and all of them, and when you go through them and you read them, and if you do not admire them, and if you do not get inspired by them, that means you haven't imbibed, or
Done your stud well.
you haven't enjoyed the process
Oh,
at
I
all.
did enjoy it, but to sit and
So
write down something is like beyond.
no, but that's the inspiration. I mean,
So, what
somewhere.
inspired you then? What
See,
interested you to become an?
right from my school days, I used to write for the school magazine. I used to write for the
Okay.
school notice
Yeah.
board, and I just used to let my pen flow, or my pen all the pencil flow, and words started forming in my mind. Words that I felt needed to be put down on paper. Words that I
Mhm.
felt needed to be scrapped later because they weren't good enough after a certain point, and I needed to grow. But the reason I became an author right now, it started off after my graduation, when became a film critic, and I wrote film reviews for a tabloid called The Daily, which is
Yes.
defunct now. It's not in existence anymore.
Mm.
But it was a paper started by Rusi Karanjia,
Correct.
who had edited The Blitz, which was a cult newspaper in Mumbai.
Yes. Yes.
And so I used to write film reviews for the Daily, and wrote almost for 10 years. And my writing started as a journalist. And then my
Mm.
writing telescoped into being a writer for television series, and in films, screenplay writing. And then I realized that the 40 years that had just flown past me were not documented, at least as far as television was concerned, because I was
Yes.
fortunate enough to, run the entire gamut of those 40 years, right from 1983 till today, till date. And there has been no record of what happened, and who were the people involved, and how did they work, and what were the stories that went into the stories that you enjoyed on the small screen. And look at me, I've been like so fortunate to be there, right there, ringside view, a witness, an eyewitness
Yes.
to most of it. And the where I haven't witnessed them, I go up to them and I talk to them, and they get the experiences and put it down all in the form of a story, which became the part of the
The
book
full
Once
scene.
Upon a
Yeah.
Prime Time. So that's what it is. And so I think it flowered and blossomed fully into writing a book. And like you said, it hasn't been easy, because
Mm.
putting all 40 years, condensing them into 400 pages
It's not
wasn't easy. It took me 2.5 years of patient writing, and absolute dedication to try and jog the memory to make sure that you haven't forgotten anything and you've put it right. So that's been an arduous process, and I'm glad that the final result has been very rewarding. It's right here. This is the book, Once Upon a Prime Time, and
Yes,
it's the first book on Indian television, and
it's
it's
an
the only one
yes.
of its kind. So I'm glad people have taken to it, whether it is television actors or practitioners, or from the film industry or the media, or even other people who are just not, just audiences who have watched and loved and hated television.
No, no. More than
Yeah,
that, it is for the generations to come. You've put it on record. It's for posterity,
yeah,
which is
that
great.
that that would be the next step, because if
Yes,
someone wants to refer to something that happened in these 40 years, and
yes,
if there was, there's something close to it, it is this book, yes.
great. So that was going to be my next question about this, but I'm glad you answered it. What is your perception about Indian literature? In the sense, how do you perceive the stature of Indian books, fiction, non-fiction, in our country and globally?
The richest literature, some of the richest literature in the world. And I'm not talking about English literature. I'm talking about regional literature. Take all the great authors in Tamil, take the
Mm,
great authors in Bengal, take
mm,
the authors in Marathi, and even the Hindi authors, like Premchand and so many of them. And you will see that the kind of literature, the kind of writing that has gone into our works, it is sad that it is neglected for an international language. I mean, I'm fascinated. I write in English, I talk in English. I have nothing against the English language, which unites puts the whole world together. But one must look into one's own backyard and see the great writing that, of course, it has been acknowledged in the regions, but it should have, found its way into translations. It should have found its way into, like, I mean, we have Tagore, who has been translated. We have a lot of Bengali authors who have been translated. But I think it needs to be on a much more international level.
yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
the whole world gets to know about what kind of writing comes from a country like India. We know all the great authors from Britain, from England. But why not authors from a culturally rich country like India, with all the great stories that have been said? We are all that the world knows is the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, two
Mm,
great books. But what
mm.
about all the other
The
stories
other
that
ones.
said? Yeah, so it's a pity that we are languishing in that context. And I hope more and more people discover the hidden literature that India has to offer, and translate them, in all possible languages, and spread it around the world.
Okay, thank you for that. What, according to you, is easier to enact? Um, Action, romance, or comedy? Because you've acted it in all these genres.
They all, you see, they all have their different challenges. I mean, a lot of people find comedy very difficult to do,
Mm,
and it comes naturally to me.
to
So
you.
it depends on how you can do it. I mean, I can never be an action hero, and Akshay Kumar could be an action hero. He could jump
Mm.
from a sixth floor of a building, and I'll have to use probably wires to do that. But I'm comfortable in drama. I'm comfortable with emotions. I'm comfortable with comedy. And the important thing is to be versatile. Not get typed as a comedian, or as a tragic actor, or as a dramatic actor. And that's what unfortunately happened to a lot of actors, and even send them into depression. For example, the great Yusuf Saab, Dilip Kumar Saab,
Mm.
he used to do a lot of films that ended in tragedy in the initial part of his career, and it actually sent him into depression. That the doctor told him, break out of this. You'll have to do a film that, where you just break free, break loose, and go for it. And that's how he did Ram Aur Sham. And a
Mm.
film like Andaz, where he was sword fighting and he enjoyed the whole process, and he came away from the tragic image. Meena Kumari was called a tragic
Yes,
actress. So
yes.
I think actors need to break out of images. Actors need to be versatile and be comfortable in all that they do. And I've been trying to, like, really reach out, and not to get typecast.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
yeah.
I do not have a face where you can say he's a dramatic actor, or a funny actor, or a sad or a tragic actor. I have a face that can sort of, modulate itself and fit into whatever image. So I could be a very evil, negative, like a guy like I did in Khiladi, or I could be a very sympathetic father like I did Bazigar. So I'm glad that I have not been endowed with a look that would slot me into any image.
Right. So you've acted in lot many TV serials also. One of the most acclaimed ones, which a lot of people identified with, in the sense the historical part of it, was the Tipu Sultan, the Sword of Tipu Sultan. Any experiences you'd like to share with us?
Oh, so Sword of Tipu Sultan has been one hell of a journey.
Yes.
I like, very nearly escaped. It was a near escape from the fire, the Mysore fire, which is probably the biggest tragedy in the history of show business. And 80 people died. They were charred
Yes.
inside the studio, and I had gotten out barely about 10 or 15 minutes before the fire broke out. And then we thought, I had quit my job at the advertising agency, Bombay Publicity, to devote 2 years of my life to what of course, I still regard that as a role of a lifetime, Purnaya Pandit.
Mm.
But imagine you coming back after 2 days of escaping from a fire and learning that the series will not happen anymore. And then imagine 6 months later, the series begins, and then it begins in Jaipur, and then you go through the whole drill. And finally, after a lot of blood and sweat, you get your returns, but it hasn't been easy, you know. So hasn't been a cakewalk to fame, and it has been a cakewalk to doing something that is a role of a lifetime. But the Sword of Tipu Sultan was one hell of an adventure.
Who is a dominant personality in you, an actor or a writer?
Um You see, if I'm directing a film or a series, if I'm making something, then the writer in me takes over first. And the director in me tells the writer, be very, very careful, be logical, do not. And the director in me becomes the audience also and starts being very critical of what I write. So the writer in me takes over then, and once the writer is over, the director takes over. But when I act, I'm an actor, and I do not keep anything else in mind except giving the character a certain amount of credibility, the character being as natural as possible, as
Possible.
real as possible. Yeah.
So, as a creative person in this pandemic, how would you advise? How are you coping? Because I know for a creative person at your great level, where in writing, acting, things are now a little limited. So, how are you managing in this time? And how would you advise others to cope up with it?
See, these are dystopian times. These are testing times, and one. See, one has learnt over the past 9 months that one has to be very, very steadfast. One has to be courageous. One has to be very prudent, and should not be foolhardy, because this is where one slip and you know that you are in
Yeah,
danger.
in trouble.
Yeah. At the same time, you can't afford to stagnate your mind or stagnate your body. And that's what I have been doing. This book has been the publishing of this book has come at the right time, and it has been keeping me busy. I've also been, I shot a short film, and since there was nobody around to help me, fortunately, I had the camera. So I wrote it. I was the cameraman, I was the actor, I was the editor. I shot the film, and it's already gone into 3 international festivals. It's a film called The Knocker, and it's about this man who stays all alone and has these delusions that there is someone at the door who's knocking, and there is someone around and he's not alone. And what is his mind playing games, or is it true? So it's a psychological mystery that I try to create. So I finished that film. I completed that and sent it across to festivals. And then, of course, I have been writing scripts. I have been
Yes.
shooting for a couple of television shows, and I've been writing scripts. So I have 2 scripts ready, so that the next year, when hopefully we get back to work in the way we know it, and not from home, I would be having all my ammunition ready. So it has been a busy 9 months, in fact. Although secluded and in sort of ensconced in your own house, and it's not been easy, but I've tried to remain sane. I have given it
Yes,
my best, and I have not broken down yet.
that's so nice to hear. That's so nice to hear. So, Ananth, tell us about your family, something about your family.
Well, I have my brother who is in Thrissur at my ancestral home, and I have
Hmm.
my mother here who is, of
Oh,
course, ailing now, and I have to look after her. So
yes.
that's the family.
Okay, so you're coping well.
Yes, I have got sort of, what would one say? I've adjusted. I have sort of got habituated to it. And now it has become part of my routine and not something that, if someone else sees it or, an outsider observes, he might think that, this is not something that he would want to be or do. But now it's part of my routine, and everything goes on as though that's the way it should be.
So right now you're not shooting at all, is it?
Not right now, but there are a few assignments that have come up, and probably they start shooting from January. And right now, I'm a little busy with my film Bittersweet, which is my latest film, which was premiered at the Busan International Film Festival last one in
Oh wow.
October.
Mhm.
And I'm sort of, getting it into a lot of festivals around the world. There's Kolkata coming up, and hopefully, FI and the Kerala Film Festival would sort of, accept it. So I'm also on the rounds, doing the rounds of festivals with that film. So a
Mhm.
lot of things are happening with television. The web series Scam kept me busy marketing it
Yes,
because
yes.
I play a major part in that. I play the RBI governor who sort of breaks the scam. So that was a good diversion too during this pandemic. So it's been there. It's like, the book, the web series, television, film, writing. So fortunately, I have no complaints.
Okay, that's just heartening to know. I'm going to ask a very quick question with a quick answer, and then go on to the Jaldi Five because I think we have some questions lined up for you. Um, Again, something which I always wondered about: when you decide to write a book, how do you decide the topic? Is it a current situation or something that picks up your interest, like, or you revolve a story or a situation that interests you, or the characters around you that you want to build a story about? I mean, how does an author chance about a story?
See, I haven't thought about writing fiction yet. I have thought about real stories.
Yeah.
And when you think about real characters and real situations, they are so dramatic that sometimes instead of writing them, I turn it into a movie. And most of
Mm,
my last five films have all been scripts that have turned into films which are about real people. Sindhutai Sabkal, Me Sindhutai Sabkal
yeah,
is about Sindhutai Sabkal,
correct.
who picks up abandoned infants and gives them shelter. Gaur Hari Dastan is about Gaur Hari Das, who is a freedom fighter, one of our oldest living freedom fighters, who fought for 35 years to get a freedom fighter certificate. My film My Ghat is about police brutality and how this mother from Kerala fought for 13 years to get justice for a son who was
Present.
killed in police custody. And
Yes.
Bittersweet is all about sugarcane cutters in Maharashtra who are forced to undergo hysterectomy. So it's all real stories. Unfortunately, not all of them have been turned into books, but they've been turned into scripts. But the book I wrote once upon a prime time was very, very close to me, and I realized that I would lose out. It would be erased from public memory. It would be erased from my memory, and it was a diary I should have written all these 40
Mm.
years, which I did not. And now I'm forced to write it all together in 2 years. So that's what inspired me, and I wanted to sort of document it also for the sake of those contemporaries and those who were my sort of guiding lights and my elders who made such wonderful cinema like Rishikesh Mukherjee and Basu Chatterjee and the like. So I thought that they should be put down for posterity, and that's how this book came into being. And that was the most urgent task I took up to write this book because it was already too late.
So I'm not letting you go yet. Another question, because I have been thinking when you said that in this generation, we find a lot of people are trying to ape others and trying to live their lives. And one whole generation is going through the burst of the social media, Facebook, Instagram, and they all are living a life which is being depicted through Facebook,
Right.
and which is rather sad, which you rightly said, because the real you is being lost in that. So I'm going to take that away from this particular talk, one part of it. And also, what would you think that we always say India is a rich land of rich cultural heritage, literature, history, etc., etc. Do you think that this current generation is lost? We don't really appreciate or understand our literature, our culture, our history.
Yes, it's a sad commentary on the new generation. Genetically, they are far, far, far superior to what we
Yes,
are. I
true.
would quote an incident when I was shooting a film called Life is Good with Mr. Jackie Shroff, and there was this little girl, 6 years old, and she was giving a brilliant performance. And
Mm.
Mr. Jackie Shroff comes up to me and says, Ananth, look at this girl, yeah. You know, at her age, do you think that you and me would have performed like this? I mean, look at the confidence.
Mm.
Look at her. I said, Dada, I'm going to show you something that might surprise you. And I called the little girl and I showed her my watch. And I said,
Mm.
Sanya, just read the time on this watch. And she looked at it as though she had seen an alien. That I told Jackie Dada, ki, look, can't read the time. You know, they are digitally
Totally, yes,
monitored today. We
completely.
are lucky that we are part of a middle generation. Neither our
The
parents nor
best of
the
both.
generation, we are in the middle. So we know what a telegram is, we know what a Morse code is, we know what a dial-up telephone is, and we also know what a mobile is. No one taught us the computer. We learned
True.
on our
Ourselves, yes,
country. Our
yes.
grandfathers did not have the internet, and yet I wouldn't say master the internet, but we have sort of, like accustomed ourselves to the internet and to technological advances. So, so which generation would you really say, the superior in
The
that
both.
respect?
Yes,
No?
yes.
We have traveled a long way, and
True,
this generation is born with a mobile phone or a digital phone in their
true.
hand. They do not know the evolution. So just like we learnt the evolution of humanity from Charles Darwin, they need to know the evolution. They do not know
True.
who Philip
They
Kumar is.
don't.
They do not
Yes,
know
yes, yes.
Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru or Winston Churchill or Abraham Lincoln is. They do not know all that,
True,
nor do they care. So that is the frightening part, that
true.
certain huge chunk of history has escaped
Yes,
them,
it'll be
and
lost.
and they are trying to find their footing.
Right. Thank you. So now we come almost to the end of it. It has been so, so interesting to listen to you. And if there was, and I don't just need it as a line or a protocol line that I wish we had more time. I wish we could listen to you more, because I think we've just touched the tip of the iceberg, and there's much, much, much more to learn from you and hear from you. But nonetheless, here we go for a jaldi fight. Yeah? We're ready? Okay. Define love.
Sincerity.
Nice. Who is your favorite lady politician and why?
Ah, lady politician. I mean, from Margaret Thatcher to Indira Gandhi, they all had their strengths and their weaknesses. But I think if Sarojini Naidu had entered politics, she would be my favorite.
Okay. So if you were to be a prime minister for a day, which Indian prime minister you would choose and why?
That's tough. I think Lal Bahadur Shastri.
Good choice. What is religion to you? Are you a religious person? Are you religious?
Yes, but religion is not something that is to be used as a weapon and a tool. The
Noted.
misuse and the abuse of religion is what is most disconcerting and frightening. Religion on its own is pure, it's spiritual, and it teaches you to meet yourself and calm yourself and be a good person. But today, religion has become a weapon like an A-bomb, and that is the worst fear and part of religion today.
Am I allowed to ask a naughty question?
Please do.
How many girlfriends have you had?
I've lost count.
Ouch! That's a good one. Okay, so now we have just about 3-4 minutes to go before we bombard you with some questions. Would you like to tell us something more? Just what just comes to your mind?
Well, like I feel I'm the odd man out. I have chosen a profession, the profession of the media, whether it's performing arts or writing, theater, television. I feel I constantly get this feeling that I'm the odd man out, and I do not sort of concur with a lot of rules that they have laid down, unwritten rules they have laid down for the artistic world, which I feel do not go are not in consonance with what art is all about. So sometimes I feel I'm fighting a lonely battle. I'm a lone ranger over here, trying to achieve something against all odds. And I feel I'm a miracle. I feel the very fact that I exist today and I'm still making movies and talking to wonderful people like you and being acknowledged like people like you itself is a miracle, because in many ways I feel somewhere that I should have been wiped out and should not have existed at all, considering the environment in which I am trying to function. So that is something that I have been trying to fight mentally without losing it.
Still not letting you go. Uh, which is your favorite book, and would you like to read something small from your book?
Well, there are a lot of favorite books. I mean, Many Minds, Many Masters, of course, the one great book. But most of the books that I read are some of the great, books written by some of the greats like Laurence Olivier or Alfred Hitchcock, or some of the great authors, John Greenwood.
Your जो आपने लिखी हैं,
I mean, you want me to read something from my book?
which is your favorite? Yeah, some nice, interesting passage.
Oh, there are so many of them. You know what? Since all of you are going to,
Get the book.
get a copy of this book, and I'm going to make sure that I sign it for you and
Thank you.
send it to you with all my love. I'll leave it to you to. I won't bore you now by reading something, and then it goes on and on, because I can't stop once you read. So I would leave it to you. Tell me what your favorite passage is, what your favorite moment is. Write to me, and I'll write back to you. I promise you that.
Okay, so a nice verse or a line that you can sing for us or recite something that comes to your mind, or you can sing a song.
I'll try and hum something for you. जाने क्या सोच कर नहीं गुजरा, जाने क्या सोच कर नहीं गुजरा, एक पल रात भर नहीं गुजरा, जाने क्या सोच कर नहीं गुजरा.
So nice, so nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to listen to you. I'd like to hand it over now to Anshulji, because I think there are some questions waiting for you. Anshul, are you there?
Anshulji, you're on mute.
Okay, I think I can see some questions. May I read them while she's getting ready?
Yeah, I think she is having internet problem.
Okay.
Monica, please go ahead.
Right. So there's a very interesting question, sir. Do you correlate yourself with Kamala Das?
Why would I don't know. I don't see the connection. I mean, Kamala Das is a famous person in her own right, and I don't think I have achieved what she has achieved. So I have a long way to go. I'm a very small figure, a very small person, and no, I don't see the connection.
Okay, so you are such a creative and innovative person. You might be having a number of friends, but what would you like to express for today's actors, upcoming writers, and critics?
All that I can say is, do not consider this profession as the last resort, because this profession doesn't ask you for a degree. The profession doesn't ask you for a qualification. I often hear a lot of people who come to me and say, "Okay, I tried my hand at MBA. I was wanting to be a civil engineer or a medical thing, but कुछ हुआ नहीं तो acting तो है ही ना." So that's terrible, So
Yeah, it's
acting.
like it's in the, sorry for interrupting you. It's like in the olden days, science and you would do science, arts would be a last resort. कि कोई और admission नहीं मिली तो arts कर लेंगे.
Yeah, but arts, you see, the scientist has to deduce very scientifically. It's he has to deduce a formula, and it has to be a very straightforward logistic progression. But an artist doesn't have any rules. He has a 360-degree view around, and you have to break the rules. You're going to throw away the book of rules. It's very tough being an artist. You rather be a scientist than be an artist. It's a bigger challenge. So do
True.
not think that this profession is a simple profession. Number one, only if you're passionate about it. Do not come here for the glamour, do not come here for the money, do not come here for the fame, because that is not going to come your way easily. If you are passionate about sinking your teeth into performances, if you're passionate about becoming a great performer, then come in. If you want to become a film critic, please make sure that you know what you're talking about. You learn your cinema. Read the end titles in every film. Read the end scroll. You should know what cinema is all about right from the time cinema came in the 1940s and the 1930s. Do not get into film criticism for the sake of being a film critic, and do not dole out those stars without any knowledge, as everyone today does. Everyone is a film critic on the social media today.
Yes,
It's
yes,
disgusting. So
yes.
please do not give a stepfatherly or motherly or brotherly treatment to this profession. This profession needs a lot of respect. This demands a lot of knowledge, awareness, and if you do not have it, do not think that you're going to get success easily here.
Anshuji is back. There's a question to Shilpa. Anshuji, you want to take it up?
Please carry on, Monica. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, ask the questions, please.
Okay. So Shilpa Agarwal from Meerut wants to know, I saw you in a drama Fate Khul Gaye. It was really good.
Patte khul gaye.
Patte Khul Gaye. It was really good. Any tips for budding screenplay writers? I have written a screenplay for short film. That is what Shilpa Agarwal says.
Thank you for liking me in Patte Khul Gaye. And writers, I would just say one thing: do not lose sight of logic. Do not, do something outlandish, and do not do something that is not credible. Times have changed, audiences have changed. People want it real, so keep it real. Keep your spoken words minimal. We are very verbose in our cinema and our writing. Make it visual, and that's the initial tips I would say. Please, the brevity, like they say, is what art is all about. So make sure that it's logical and brief.
So there's another question which says, what helps you to overcome failure in life?
Well, when one has been so much used to failure, then I think I need to get lessons on how to, meet success and greet it when it comes at all. So I have been so used to failure that now it's become part of my life, and I have reconciled to it. And the main important thing is not to break. It's very important not to break. Do not succumb to all the so-called elements that most of the people do. I have seen most of my friends who haven't met with the success sometimes that they expected to meet, get into drugs, get into smoking, get into drinking, and destroy themselves. It's a sad commentary. Do not do that. You have to stay strong, because these are failures. Failures are always relative. You're a failure in what? In the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the people who judge you, but who are they to judge you anyway? Do you know your job? That's the most important thing.
True.
If
Yes.
you think you know your job correctly, go ahead and have a sound night's sleep, because even if you do not have a job, but you know your job, that is more important.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
Okay. So do we have time for one more question?
Please do. Go ahead.
In your industry, artists are committing suicide. What are your thoughts about that?
See, everyone is so ambitious. Everyone wants to be at the top, nothing but the top. And they do not realize how vulnerable the mind is. The mind can be the strongest weapon in the world. It can bend a spoon, or it can just break down and you can get into
True.
depression. And imagine, it gives you the courage to take your own life. So imagine the state of mind it brings you to. That is a very frightening truth. So, what I would advise people is don't run the rat race. Just do what you want to do. Do not go by the yardsticks that society has laid down or what the film people have laid down. That is not a yardstick. It's what you want to achieve and what you have to get to. You create your own destination. Enjoy that journey and
Yes.
do not succumb to these weaknesses, because otherwise you'll end up as a wreck. What's the point? Then if you have come here to achieve something and if you're going to end up killing yourself, the whole exercise is defeated. So do not succumb to that and be patient, be calm, and get a hold of yourself.
So this is the end of the questions in the chat box. And I think we have come to an end, though we wanted to continue. A heartfelt thanks to Mr. Ananth Narayan Mahadevan for the very interesting and insightful session. I would also like to thank Sri Cements Limited for promoting these literary sessions. I would also like to thank Crystal Palace for being a hospitality partner and a media partner, Dainik Jagran. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Miss Monica for her apt and meaningful moderation and for making it so enjoyable. I want to also
Thank
thank
you.
everyone who joined in and took time to watch this session. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, for having me here for the second time. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you, and it's been very stimulating for me too. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, ladies. Bye-bye.